Everybody, I'm here with a video response to Kellyanne Maddox's video about what's going on with Marilyn Manson and people's reaction to it. If you want to see her video, I've linked it here below. She describes things excellently. She's so much more well-spoken than I am. She talks about things like parasocial relationships, what happens when we idolize people, and her own personal response to what's going on, as well as just kind of what happened with him and the abuse and things. If you don't know what's going on, you can easily just Google Marilyn Manson, hit news, and you'll see what's going on. Basically, what's been happening is Evan Rachel Wood, who had a long-term relationship with him, came out and talked about him being abusive, the domestic abuse that she suffered, and just horrendous stuff that she went through with him, and how he groomed her at a young age. He met her as a teenager and, kind of sucked her in. And there's been other women since who've come forward with very similar stories. I think at the time of filming this, there has been 11 women, but there's probably going to be more. There usually is. Unfortunately, it's just such a difficult, sad situation. I personally can't say I'm surprised by this, actually. I'm saddened. I'm saddened for those women. I'm saddened for, anybody that he's victimized, as well as for his fans as well. So if you're somebody who is a fan of Marilyn Manson, who grew up listening to him, and you are upset about this, first of all, I want to offer my condolences to you. Sometimes we think that when, somebody we love as an artist lets us down, that we're not allowed to be upset about it. We might feel like people will make fun of us or something, but I want to let you know that it's okay to feel that way. When we're young, especially, when we're younger and when we're teenagers and stuff, the art that we love has a big impact on it. And whether that's music or books or movies, a lot of the time when we're going through a difficult period, or even just, for all of us, the transition of being a teenager is, a stressful and difficult time. Having art that is healing for us, it's natural for us to get attached to those artists. And we certainly often project our image onto them. And I think that's another thing to point out, which I think Kellyanne Maddox does really well. There is a big difference between the persona that the person presents to the public and who they actually are in real life. And there's also our ideas that we project onto them, right? So, who they are as a human being and a person with their friends and family is often quite different than the people we think they are, or the persona that they portray. So I also want you to know that if you feel like, oh, I feel so stupid for, really enjoying this person and their art and stuff, I feel like they took me in. First of all, don't be embarrassed or upset. People let us down all the time. Artists, unfortunately, are human beings that don't always make good decisions. And so they can let us down. And you have to remember, too, that their persona is often very carefully crafted by management companies and by themselves as well. So I don't want you to be upset or embarrassed about that. As for my history with Marilyn Manson, it isn't quite the same as Kellyanne Maddox's. I mean, she talked about how she really loved them when she was like a teenager. And I think when you really love like an artist as a teenager, it definitely sits close to your heart, right? I mean, I'm sitting here in front of posters of, GNR that I loved when I grew up, because I'm a little older than she is. I'm in my 40s. So I grew up with a lot of 80s metal musicians and bands like this. So I definitely understand how that feels. I was a big fan of Marilyn Manson during the Antichrist Superstar sort of era. So I discovered him, I would say around I feel like 96, 97, somewhere in there. And I really loved Antichrist Superstar. I listened to it all the time. I had Marilyn Manson t-shirts. I had posters. This is when I was in university. So I really enjoyed it. I went to see him in 97, his Antichrist Superstar tour, and the show was really great. I really, really loved it. And then Mechanical Animals came out, and I was kind of so-so about it. It was okay, but it wasn't Antichrist Superstar. And then what turned me off from Marilyn Manson was actually the book, Long Hard Road Out of Hell, his autobiography. I don't know how to explain why I felt this way, but I read it, and I remember thinking, this does not have the ring of authenticity to it. Because I've read like a lot of rock star biographies, and a lot of them, I mean, they all have ghostwriters, right? But a lot of them really just feel like they're chatting to you about their life, or they're talking about things that have happened to them. But with the Marilyn Manson autobiography, I remember distinctly feeling like someone's carefully crafting something to present to me. This isn't somebody saying, oh, this happened when I was a kid and then this happened, or I did this stupid thing or whatever. This felt like this very carefully crafted, like, look what a badass I am, or look, look, I'm presenting this thing to you. And I felt like it was like this veneer, and it kind of like turned me off. That, and there's some, it's been a long time since I've read this book, but I do distinctly remember a few episodes in there where he talks about abuse, like abusing women. And I just thought, I do not like this person. And I remember being turned off. And then especially with later albums that I haven't been like following super closely, because again, like I said, I got kind of turned off and just sort of drifted away from that. But also he sort of used some Nazi type imagery in his videos and things. And I just thought, like, that is not okay. Like, that's not cool. So I wasn't interested in it anymore. But for a while there in the late 90s, early 2000s, I really enjoyed his stuff. And then I just kind of drifted away from it. And then when he came out with that interview, I think it was 2009, where he talked about wanting to smash Evan Rachel Wood's face with a hammer. So I just remember thinking, like, ugh, this is not great. And so I wasn't surprised to hear about this happening, but it is saddening. It is saddening to have that, to know that people have suffered like that. So I want to let you know, if you're feeling disappointed, if you're feeling let down, it's totally okay. And I want to address the elephant in the room, that I am sitting in front of GNR posters, and they are definitely not perfect, and their sins are very public, and you can easily look them up, especially Mr. Axl Rose over there. And I want to say that the women that came forward about Axl, this is years ago, this is like in the early 90s, I believe them. I totally believe them. The thing for me about whether or not I cancel someone, there's a few things. A, what did they do? B, is it just stupid self-destructiveness, which is pretty common, unfortunately, amongst rock stars, especially, growing up in the 80s with listening to, heavy metal. A lot of them were very self-destructive. Most of them, though, got help. Most of them, by the time they were in the late 20s, early 30s, a lot of them had decided that they couldn't keep going like that, or it was going to kill them, and wised up and got help, and have definitely improved things. And now they're in their 50s, some of them in their 60s. And they're a lot older and wiser, and have kind of calmed down quite a bit. So I look at that as like growth. And I don't judge a person by the worst action ever. I try to look at the whole thing. But it does depend, A, what they did. B, is it a pattern? And C, what did they do after? What was their response to it? Was their response to go and get help and to improve things? Or was their response to just keep on going and keep doing it and never fix it? Or give like those half-ass apologies that aren't really an apology, or try to make everyone feel sorry for them? Like, what is the reaction to this? For example, last year or the year before, I think it was, we were all let down by J.K. Rowling. And instead of apologizing to people, her reaction was to dig in her heels. And that's the part to me that makes it not forgivable. I think that, with Marilyn Manson, he is in his 50s. This has been going on for a very long time. It is not like he, maybe had a bad spell when he was younger, or did some bad things and then decided to get help and improve things. Nope. He's been doing this for a long time, and there have been a lot of people enabling him as well for a very, very long time. And I think the older you are, the harder it is to make those changes. It's not impossible, but it is difficult. So I definitely recognize, certainly from the stories, some of the narcissistic behavior, when he broke up with Evan Rachel Wood initially, and he called her like 100 times and cut himself, and then she went back to him. So I, as a survivor of domestic abuse, and I recognize some of those patterns of behavior, and I'm like, I recognize that, and it's not a one-time thing. It is a pattern. And so it's disappointing, but unfortunately it is not surprising. So I have some notes here because I didn't want to get too off track. The other thing I want to say is, what do you do about that? Like, as somebody as a fan, I think first of all you have to recognize that we don't know these people. I'm a big fan, like I said, of a lot of 80s, metal bands and things. I realize I do not know these people at all. Some people I've, met, and some people I've, received like tweets or DMs from. That doesn't mean I know them at all. Like, it just means I've had like interaction for a minute with them or something. It doesn't mean I know this person. And the way that they present themselves to the public may not necessarily be who they are behind closed doors. And so I'm well aware that some of these people and some of these people may disappoint me in the future because I don't really know who they are. So first of all, give yourself a break because you don't actually know these people. What you love is their art. And if that art healed you, especially during a difficult time in your life, still honor that. That doesn't mean that that art is bad, and it also doesn't mean that you're bad. Don't feel like you've been duped. And also remember that the healing that that book or that music or that film or whatever it was gave you, that called on something that was already within you. So honor that. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to decide where you draw the line between things. So, for example, with J.K. Rowling, the line I've sort of drawn with myself is I recognize that she has some opinions that I definitely do not agree with and do not support when it comes to like her feelings about trans people. And so I'm not going to be giving money to that particular to Harry Potter stuff in the future, but doesn't mean I can't enjoy the books. But I'm not going to give her any more money. With Marilyn Manson, I was turned off from him a long time ago. But everyone has to decide where the line draws. I mean, maybe for you, listening to the music is still a healing thing. Go ahead and do that. And for others, you may say, you know what, I'm so turned off by this, I can't listen to this person anymore. And that's okay too. And for other people, they may have to step back from it for a while and then come back to that a little bit later. So everyone has to draw the line. Nobody gets to tell you what's okay. I would say though, like, I don't believe in making excuses for people, even people that we love. For example, like I said over here, I don't make excuses for any of that behavior. It's not okay, and I'm not here to be an apologist for that person either. So, it's okay to say, I really love this art, and I recognize that this person has these faults. So everyone has to decide that for themselves. Nobody gets to judge that for you. But I want you to know, if you are upset about what happened, if you've been upset about anything that's happened, like J.K. Rowling letting people down, or anybody else. I know there's people who've talked about, David Bowie's history and Prince's history and stuff. Important to remember, these are human beings and we put them on pedestals, but they're not perfect. And that power corrupts people, and power reveals things as well. And it amplifies things that are already there. And the other thing to realize too is that it's okay to love art and recognize that the people behind it aren't perfect either. And it's okay to say, you know what, if this is too much for me, it's okay to say that's enough, and I'm not going to listen to that anymore either. So your reaction, whatever it is, and how you heal from that is totally valid, and it's going to waffle, it's going to go up and down between things. That's totally okay. Let me know what you think. What is your reaction? How do you feel about it? Where are your lines? As long as comments are respectful, I'll leave them. But let me know what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and go watch Kellyanne Maddox video because it's super awesome. But anyway, guys, you're awesome as always. Peace and love and rock.